Stop doing this before your game. Dan Hunt here, performance coach for hundreds of teams, countless athletes, both at the high school and college level. And the thing that I want to dive into with this video is I want to dive into what you need to stop doing immediately before competition. The thing is that as you're going into competition, there's a lot of things happening, right? Many of us feel nerves and excitement and all these things. Much of the things you need to stop doing right now is all around the fact that you're not managing those nerves the way you need to. And so one of the first things you need to stop doing, I see this all the time. I'll walk into a locker room or I'll go to a game and I see like players getting ready for their game or off in the locker room or off to the side, and they're scrolling social media. They're on their phones. They're distracted. They're trying to run away from the nerves and the feelings that they're feeling because they're not used to it, right? They're trying to run the opposite direction. And so they're distracting themselves by texting and scrolling TikTok, Instagram, whatever that may be, to distract themselves from the feelings that they're feeling, like their whole body getting ready to perform. You need to stop. Just stop scrolling. The other thing I see, and I see this a lot, especially with contact sports, is that players will try to like psych themselves up. They'll keep like screaming and yelling and it's this like all this psych up, right? It's almost like they're trying to not just psych themselves up, but psych their opponents out. And the thing that happens on the backside is that you take yourself from not only feeling the nerves to like a huge adrenaline rush, and then it drops, right? And I don't know how many times I've been on the sidelines and I've watched teams completely psych themselves out and completely hijack themselves and build this adrenaline rush up. And then the adrenaline rush drops and they're into the late first quarter, into the second quarter or the second period. And all of a sudden, like athletes are feeling sick. They're feeling tired, right? I've even seen athletes vomit because they've just created this cocktail in their body that they're not used to and they can't handle. All right, you need to stop psyching yourself out. You need to stop psyching each other out. Right? And just like trying to elevate this thing to some, like break through some ceiling. And then the final thing you need to stop doing, you need to stop focusing on the circumstances of the game. Like a rivalry game or the championship game, or this is to go up to, in first 8-win season, whatever it is. Like you need to stop looking at and playing the situation and start just playing the game. You need to stop focusing so much on the opponent. Yes, you need to prepare for the opponent. Yes, you need to do your film study and make sure like before the game you're processing through what are our key points? What do we need to do? What are we going to execute on? But then you need to arrive back to like, what are you going to do? More than anything, all right? And it's easy to say, stop doing these things, all right? And you guys know me, I'm a firm believer that you can't just stop doing these things. You need to replace it with something. Because to simply stop doing those things, like just creates a space where you're gonna try to do something else. So I'm gonna give you something to do here. What I want you to do before games is I want you to find a time, try to settle yourself, try to lock in. If you're somebody that goes into practices calm, cool, and collected, and like you're zoomed in, there's some mental intensity, but you're focused, that's the same state, right? The same way you should be going into games. And yes, you're gonna feel nerves. Yes, you're gonna feel some of that performance anxiety and things like that. Those things are okay. But you should try to mimic the same way you show up to practices, the same way you show up to games. So if your practices are lackadaisical, then we need to pick those practices up because we need to be competing and playing at a high level in practice so we can do that in games. Because if you're not doing that practices and you think you're gonna do that in games, it's not gonna happen. But you need to be able to calm and settle yourself. And what I say is get those nerves moving in the same direction and channel that into what you plan to do, how you plan to execute, how you want to show up, and the results that you want to get from this competition. That's what you need to do. And spend your time creating a routine around that so that your body knows that through this routine, you're activating. It's time to go perform. Like, subscribe, share with your teammates, with coaches, like whoever you think could be impactful and be impacted by this to help them be at their best and win. That's what we're trying to do here. Greatness is within.